It's been like a Broadway play. It's
Indeed.
been a lot of rehearsal. I had no idea to create something new would require over a year-long pilot.
Uh, yes. Have you read The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield?
No.
Oh, it's incredible. He talks about the monster, the blank page monster, the inertia of sucking. And he's a writer,
Oh,
and so he was a truck driver for a long time. And one day, he gets his rusty typewriter, and there's dishes piled to the ceiling, and he typed one shitty page, and he cleans his house. And then the next day, he wrote two shitty pages, and then eventually he wrote Gates of Fire. That's the 300 story, and
wow.
he got into how to be a professional artist, and to show up when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And the thing that stands out the most is like, as a professional, go pro or turning pro is another book that he has. He's like, to the true professional, we can do 10 shitty days in a row. That's just the job. Yeah. And in this case, I'm not saying it's a year of shitty jobs, right, or shitty days or whatever, but
No.
it's like the pain, the birthing pains of a dream, of vision, of movement. Uh, it's been gnarly.
Gnarly. And I look back and I'm writing Rise of the Liberation Mechanics right now. And I'm looking at this as it's coming out of me, and I'm like, this is like Dostoevsky, Ayn Rand level stuff. And I look at myself and I'm like, who are you to say that? And then I'm telling myself, I claim that, and I have been preparing for that and doing that my entire life.
Mhm.
And to come up with an original creation without evidence that it's original uh, for anybody is the work. And I look at the kinds of things I've done, and I'm writing in this book, and I'm thinking, I stood in the mess often thinking it was great. And then other people would say, well, that's terrible. And I'd be confused. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, this is great. You don't even understand. And then I would believe them.
I go back to 5 years old, 4 years old, making shitty finger paints that my parents thought were awesome. And Brian's a special little boy.
Oh,
And then I got older and I wrote this book. Your secret superpower, Team Fear to Thrive. It was a field manual of how to cope with life's avalanches, both as the receiver of an avalanche or also as the observer of someone that I love going through an avalanche. Hey, look what I made. I think I sold 250 copies of that book.
yeah.
And I thought it was special. And the story I want to share is like at my book launch, I'm about to jump out of an airplane. I'm qualified to skydive. My editor and coach, she's going to do a tandem, so we jump out together. But before I do that, I'm signing autographs with 50 people in a hangar. Kind of a cool event. Most rock star moment of my life. My dad looks at me and he goes, I love you, right? I'm like, fuck, here it goes.
Uh-oh.
Here's the sandwich. I read your book. Oh, yeah? Wasn't that good? Thanks, Dad. I'm going to go jump out of an airplane now. And what he was saying was, you have a New York Times best-selling book. You are capable of that. This is
Yeah.
not that. I love you.
That's right.
And so there gets to a point in the journey of this man, maybe you too, where the shitty finger paints that parents were like, this is awesome. It's not awesome yet. Like, it's got the makings of something awesome.
Yeah.
My dad talks about the butterfly. And so these artists have this beautiful image of a butterfly. And they go to paint it for the first time. Like, it doesn't look anything like what I imagined. This is really fucking hard. And fighting the urge to publish this shitty butterfly. Like, nope, got to do it again. Nope, got to do it again. Got to do it again. And eventually, that lump of granite actually is like, is this a diamond yet? And the market says no.
No.
Is this a diamond yet?
No.
Not quite. Is this a diamond yet? It sparkles, but it's not quite a diamond yet.
However, who decides yet? And Van Gogh, I was reading the Van Gogh story. I've been fascinated by Van Gogh since I was in my 20s. And I read through Van Gogh's art book when I was in Poland, screwing around in my 30s when I was traveling a lot, or late 20s. And I read the art book, and I remember the Potato Eaters. And the Potato Eaters was a painting done in the style of the times. And he needed to show everyone he could do it. And it was what people could understand. And then he had a moment, and this happened to me too, where he stopped listening. And then he did the Starry Night kind of art, which everyone thinks of as Van Gogh. And nobody looks at most people don't even know the Potato Eaters. They're here for me. You know what Starry Night looks like. You know the Bedroom and Arl or whatever it's called. You don't know Potato Eaters. I saw the Potato Eaters in the book and the sketches before it. And I'm going to go quick with this next story and then go back to you. And I wrote a book about Zion as a fable 2 years ago. A year and a half ago. My wife looked at it and said, "This is terrible. I don't know what you're talking about." Now, as I write and publish on Substack chapters in sequence of Rise of the Liberation Mechanics, I don't need her to look at it because I know it's great.
That's an interesting idea. So two things that I heard in there. I just see that scene in Billions when the artist, he does these sort of his version of like Jackson Pollock.
Oh yeah.
Paintings and Axelrod is like, you're the next thing. I order 8 of these things. And
yeah.
He wrecks them with riches. And just one morning,
wrecks him with riches. Let's just put a point. He wrecks him with riches. Great line.
He can't handle the pressure of being wealthy, and then he allows it to go to his head, and it affects the art. And I thought the most beautiful scene there was when Wendy wakes up, and he sketches her, and she's like, "This is beautiful." He's like, "This? It's just art school stuff." And she's like, "The reason I love this is because I get to see me from your perspective." She saw the art in that, and yeah, I completely lost my second thought, being fully immersed in that moment.
Yeah, it's a great story. And the counter story is Bobby Axe and then the sidekick who needs Axe to give him a sense of completion as the friend that validates his existence. And I forget the sidekick's name.
His name's Wags.
Wags.
Michael
Perfect
Wagner.
work. Right. So they do ayahuasca. And they come out. It's the best scene in I love this scene.
Wolf.
And yes, and they said, "I'm a wolf." And it was like, "Look at us. We're incredible." And I remember watching that. And my wife looked at me and she said, "Now they know who they are." And that's all they are.
Yeah.
They're a circular reflection of themselves, watching themselves tell each other, validating each other's existence because they didn't feel inner validation.
Right.
And I'm like, "No, I don't want that."
Oh, thanks for tying it back in. Thanks for throwing the ball back.
Oh, I got you back? Okay.
Yeah. I was having a talk with a friend of mine, and what I'm doing, what we're doing in the Invincibility Dojo. And I realized with his gift, are you being the nice little boy that wants mommy's approval for his energetic gift? And he's like, "Holy shit, that's it." And there's some mornings, not every morning, but often, I'll get chills in the middle of facilitating, for this wonderful group of people. And like in the middle of it, I'm like, "You're on, you're in the groove," and I'm not open to outside feedback. I'm not looking for validation.
No.
I know I'm doing this the best way that I know how to do it. It's singing. The orchestra is in tune, and it's in concert.
And, last night and today is a big day. We have a different president of the United States. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, how do I deal with this? This is not what I expected or wanted. And we had a long conversation about it yesterday so we could bring our perceptions and perspectives together, even though we don't see it the same way. we needed to go through that. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, here's my perspective. Yours is different on it. And I'm going to share my perspective in relation to what we're talking about. And it is, for me, what just happened is that It's About Me crowd won. And I've been watching the It's About Me crowd win my whole life and thinking, that sucks. I don't like it. And I don't like it. And I'm okay with it. Oh, we lost Brian. Um, and I'm okay with it because I'm not in charge of how the arc of history works. But I look at it and I'm like, Bobby Axelrod and Wags and Elon Musk, who wants to put his face on the side of Mars, just won. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. That gives me a foil for liberation mechanics, which from my perspective is the opposite of what they're doing, which is good or bad. I don't know. It's not for me to judge. It's for me to say, we got on cola. For me, not necessarily you, but I see it as I got 7 Up to their Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola that just won. And that has been my foil my entire life as a man.
Interesting. The reaction I had today was a feeling of relief. Less about who actually won. And for me, I didn't realize how much angst I was holding with all of the blah blah blah, but blah blah blah, right? And the rifting, and I'm in tune to energy. And I left the city of Richmond because I could still feel the rift. It's the scar of the Civil War, and for me, it's a dark place.
Yeah.
And this morning, I woke up, spent the last couple of days at the beach at a friend's house. Came back to my apartment, and I was like, I need to go to the beach. And there's houses destroyed from the hurricane, and I'm just feeling the chilly sand on my feet. And I wept. I wept so much of this that I was like holding onto, feeling like the ping pong ball between two worlds. And I was relieved that is over. And
the ping pong ball between two worlds. That's exactly how I felt.
yeah,
On the other side of the divide that isn't real.
It isn't real. And this is what I was talking about, the stories that I've created, like with my dad. And if I inherited a story, that also means I can make up a story that's not self-serving. And so Jason Stapleton, that's the guy's name. I couldn't think of his name earlier today. And in our invincibility circle, I was sharing a story about an entrepreneur. He's like, man, the taxes are so high.
Oh,
Jason,
yeah.
And Jason looks at me and goes, I don't want to hear that ever again, because winners fucking win. And, for me, it matters who's in the White House. I feel like entrepreneurially and
I think it does matter. Yeah.
It does.
Well, let's say it's important, but does it matter?
It's important, but it's important like we're playing Monopoly, for example, shitty example. And if Kamala was in office, there's a certain set of rules to now win in.
Yeah.
And if Trump is in office, there's a different set of rules to then win in a Monopoly. And it's just a matter of, okay, how do we win? Not how do I win? Can I use my favorite pronoun?
Of course.
Us. What allows us to really thrive? And so I know what set of rules I'm playing with now.
Yeah. And I look at it as, I see her as representing the future. And when I saw the Democratic convention, I felt like that's the experience sharing economy communication style being demonstrated by everybody talking about their origin stories with humility, with a lot of marketing mixed in. So there was a lot of planning. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you guys aren't fully there yet because you want to win. I get it. That's fine. Except for Bill Clinton, who has just shared his opinions. And I'm like, okay, I can't listen to this guy anymore. So, okay, so that's over. And I'm like, oh, she's got to win because that's experience sharing. And it's the opposite of what I see from Trump and that crowd, which is all opinion projecting. They're gigantic opinion projectors. To me, that's what I hear. I just hear a bunch of opinions. And that feels like the old way, the old world that I don't want to be in. Well, I'm not in it because I'm not living in it. And now they won. And I don't have to be on the other side of the opinion projection from them because I don't care. And I can be a liberation mechanic in my own way all the time, and I can be okay with the opinion projectors and love them too, and say they're part of us. Everybody's part of us. There is nobody separate from us. I don't have to oppose them, but I
No.
don't have to agree with their opinions as projected. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was really powerful. The way that one of the ways that in one of the battle states, Pennsylvania was one. The Amish voted for the first time. 180,000 Amish people voted,
Wow.
and they don't 100% agree with Trump's values, but it's a lot closer to what they hold dear, and close enough to create a partnership in that. I thought that was neat. And then as you're talking about the opinion projectors, one of the things I like about Trump, like sometimes I just want to turn the volume completely off. So I'm just going to share the stuff without him speaking. So after the bullet grazed his ear and the firefighter died, he kissed his helmet. I thought that was really moving. Like that felt authentic to me. When I served in the military, he didn't start any new wars. He served people and loved it at McDonald's. He rode the garbage truck, and he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I enjoyed listening to two men talk about life together. I could really relate to that. I don't really, the first 30 minutes of Joe Rogan, I'm like, enough already on the Lincoln's bedroom. Like,
Oh my God.
it must have been surreal, So I'm learning more and more in my own practice, and this might be an interesting segue. How to discern for me the difference between misinformation, hey, I just got it wrong, versus disinformation. And I saw a video today, and a professor was in the front of the room. He has two circles, one's red, one's blue, and he goes, "This is an optical illusion. One of these circles is bigger. How many people think it's the red one?" People raise their hands, and then how many think it's the blue one? And he said, "You're wrong. They're the same size, and you already knew that. But I told you it's an optical illusion, so you pick sides." And just an example of marketing, if I tell you enough times, you'll think a thing that's not true. Start to believe it.
Yep.
So the idea for me in that is to be suspect of all opinions, but especially my own.
Yes. It's the only one I have any control over is my own opinion, not anyone else's, and I know that. So the way I felt was I just saw a guy who took an enormous dump on top of the Constitution, get access to the levers of power of the United States of America, and an enormous dump years ago, and it's still coming out of them. And I'm like, no, I don't want that guy to be in charge. I don't like this. Now, okay, so my opinion, my values, my beliefs, and my convictions are not relevant.
Nope.
They're just not important. So am I going to say that? Well, I just did. But I'm also going to say it doesn't make any difference because it's just another opinion.
It is.
So who cares?
And I hear that. I'm laughing at you got in my imagination with that. And I couldn't disagree more personally. But like,
Yeah.
I can't say shit to that because that's how you see the world. And we had such a powerful conversation the other day. Your fear around Trump becoming in office, and I felt the same way about Kamala Harris.
Uh-huh.
And what we were able to do,
And we're still friends.
what
We're more than friends. We're more than friends.
Is to get beyond the divide and the difference of opinion, and start to look at that from like a meta thought, a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
Misinformation, disinformation,
Yeah.
and no matter what side, we're not on a side.
There's no sides.
We got a lot of work to do,
Yeah.
And if I thought that Kamala was going to save the country, or I thought Trump was going to save the country, it really matters, but not in the way that it matters to me as a man of agency.
Yeah.
Right. So, what's mine to do? And I don't want a savior.
No, it's not my job to save it. It's my job to know my own beliefs and not
It's
project them out into the world.
it's my job to contribute this much
Yes.
to the greater good.
Yes.
You know, the Kennedy. Ask Norm what you can do. I
Yeah.
don't know. I was
Ask
going to
not
try to
what
do
you
it
can do for
Boston.
your country. Ask not what you can your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Even if Trump's president, for me, um, I'm doing my job anyways, and I'm not going to get into all the crazy because it's got nothing to do with me. It's just a bunch of opinions being projected onto me. I don't have to believe any of that or oppose it.
Signal versus noise.
Signal versus noise. I learned that in data marketing back in the 2000s when I was selling marketing AI. So I look at it also the gender divide, so-called gender divide, which isn't a divide; it's just confusion. And our meeting this morning with More Money Now in the More Money Now room with Lana and Gail, where Lana is kind of like, Larry, I am not relating to the way you are talking about this because I don't need all that structure that you are introducing. And I'm like, well, some people do though. And she said, yeah, but you're going to turn off people in the room where they're just confused. And I'm like, oh, like my wife tells me. So there's a different female energy for them. Not all females, it's different. And my wife's the same. And she's like, I don't need all your structure. I'm already there. And I'm like, I
Yes.
don't need my structure either, but I think other people do. And Gail and Lana are like, not us. So you better preface that and frame it, or you're going to drive people out of here that don't need that. And I'm
Come
like,
back.
oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That's the aha. I knew there was an insight in there for me, and the process communication method. So Pixar writes scripts that all four personality types can hear,
Yes.
and they mention all four of them in their dialogue. And if I am not one of those, I can't even hear it. Like I don't even take it in. It filters right through because it's not what I'm tuned or find resonance with. And the idea that like if you don't need structure, this isn't for you, but it's important that you're still here.
Exactly. And well, but it is for you. So if you don't need structure, it is for you. If you need structure, it is for you. If you decide that it's time for you to do this with a group. And or even if you decide, no, I still want to go my own way, but I want to learn a few things. So this I learned when I was 17 years old. And then for many years, I was part of personal development groups. Everybody was welcome who wanted to be there. And every single person who came had their own way into that experience. And no one ever gave them a culture and said, it's like this.
Right.
You have to be like this. You have to be this kind of a person versus that kind of a person, or that kind of a person versus this kind of a person. And I'm like, that's not liberation mechanics. That's not what I want to create.
Right.
So I need to get out of my own way, is the point.
Yeah. The idea. I forget who this is. Not Babaji. Maybe Yogananda. With I found a way, and I want to share it with you. A way.
A way.
It might not be your way, but I found a way that works for me, and that's become a guiding principle for me. Is like, I'll show you 8 different ways to breathe. Which one of those do you like the best? Okay. Now we're gonna make it yours. So here's how to find your divine breath, and I promise you it'll be different than mine, because mine changes every day.
Well, and how many years did it take you to be able to do that, where it wasn't about copy my way? It was about let's find your way and I'll guide you towards that or not. And I'll know when to leave you alone and I'll know when to say something. How many years did it take you of mastery before you mastered demonstrating it? And then every day looking around the room and saying, hey, you try this, you try this, you try every single one of us. You're like, try this, try this, try this. How long did
I
it take you to do that? Learn how to do that?
I adopted a daily breathing practice on April 13th, 2018. In October, I trained 5 days with Wim Hof in the mountains of Oregon, Mount Hood.
Must have been cold.
It was awesome. I'm like the only polar bear in Florida, and my daily ice bath reminds me of home. And I watched him. I watched Wim Hof, the founder of the Wim Hof method, not do the Wim Hof method, and I don't know what I watched, but it was next level magic.
Yeah.
And it took me 6 years to realize what he did there. He was present in the moment,
Yeah.
and he allowed the 65 people there to guide the breath practice collectively.
65 people doing the Wim Hof method that doesn't exist.
Right. Well,
or does it?
We're so chess is a good analogy, right? So like king and pawn, king and rook, like there's some structure stuff that you need. So
Of
learning
course.
to breathe in your belly is really important. So, his three, belly, chest, head. So just awareness of this, it goes into the microcosmic orbit of breathing, which is a really advanced technique.
And that's not Wim Hof's. That's how it works.
It is, but it's a paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So do these three simple, easy. Anybody can do this. You can be in a hospital bed, and this still works for you. And just start breathing. Start paying attention to the breath. And he found a paint by numbers. I think Reiki is like this too. It's like energy by numbers. No disrespect to the Reiki practitioners. It's a beautiful ancient medicine. And the Tai Chi Gong folks, they haven't changed the forms in 3,300 years. That doesn't work for me. I'm glad I learned it. It opened up something in me that now I can play jazz on top of it.
I learned it originally with Tai Chi forms, and then my Sifu, who taught us in the dojo. It was a whole group, so community. It wasn't just him and me. It was a whole group of different kinds of energies, different kinds of instructors. When I was in my 20s, I started doing those practices, energetic practices, and he said, there will be a moment where you don't need the form.
Mm-hmm.
And he called it extemporaneous movement. And when I discovered Bruce Lee a year and a half ago, Jeet Kune Do, I thought, wait, that's not mixed martial arts. No, that's extemporaneous movement. Same thing the Tai Chi Sifu taught me. Now I don't use any form, but I'm doing that every day, all the time. And it just works. When I do a punch now, I see different kinds of, it's like this comes in and I'm like, what's that? And then sometimes it's this, and sometimes it's this, and sometimes it's this. How do I know that? Because I spent 30 something years learning principles through practicing them.
So in our circle, we study and ponder the gene keys quite a bit. Richard Rudd, genius. Yeah. And my radiance circle is 63, which is the completion after. So that's the stepping stones through a logical progression. And so since I left the Navy in 2011, I have 900 books in my library, either on my Kindle, paper copy.
I'm out of control too.
On Audible. And a lot of those I've read multiple times, and in releasing, not sleeping, not aggressive, but awake. I can relax and breathe in, and the quote from a particular book just comes through. And so the reason I was obsessed with all that is I have this body of wisdom I can pull from, and trusting that it'll be there when I need it to make a point or to quote an expert, or it just comes in.
It just comes in, and I can't read or listen to opinions anymore. And I read an opinion book, whether it's about physics or whether it's about history or whether it's about business or whether it's about lead generation or whether it doesn't matter what it's about. I read it and I'm like, I can't read this. And I can read wisdom books all day long. And I know the difference between an opinion book and a wisdom book. And that's what Gurus and Sages is all about. A guru is an opinion based on the mind's contents projecting out into the pages through that person's stuff they learned in the world. And a wisdom book, or how I define it in Gurus and Sages, is it's not mine.
Yes.
It came out of me because I allowed that song to come. It's the creative act.
Yes.
That's the difference.
And as you share that, I think about my history of codependent relationships. And we mentioned wags and acts, and
Yeah.
billions, codependent.
That's a
relationship.
codependent relationship, right?
Like I need you for you to love me. Right?
Yeah, they both need each other to feel loved and completed.
So guru. And so for me, like the sage kind of love is when I spend time with you, I remember to love me more.
We're at time, and Brian, that's what you and I got. So we're not wags and acts.
Thank God.
Yep. And we're on the opposite of the political divide that doesn't exist.